Hello and welcome to the energy update, messages from the Earth, chakra sequencing, and also we're going to be going into looking into the sun and see what's going on there, because there's a massive message coming in from the planets over the next few days, from the 8th, the evening of the 8th, 9th, 10th, if you're regarding in sense of UK time. So yeah, there's some big changes coming up, some big messages coming through. So yes, that's all coming up. Don't believe, just know. Cymatic TV, turning vibration into reality. Let's just see the sunspot. There's quite a lot going on, really. We're in the height of solar activity. And as we can see, as they move across the surface, coming through is that big one that we can see on the left-hand side. The X-flare came off on the right-hand side around about here. It's blowing off into the direction of Mars, and we will see that. But one thing we should notice is on these sunspots that are going across the surface of the sun at the moment, they are in very equatorial sort of bands at the moment. And that is a significant sign that we are coming towards the end of the high part of the solar cycle. And as they get closer together, that's when we're going to get more filaments. This is exactly what I was talking about. We're having a high activity back in May, and I expect a high activity be happening in October, November, September, October, November, around that sort of side, and we'll have a double peak cycle going on. This is when we're in the lull. I said we'll have a few X flares, and sure enough, we did. We did have a few X flares, and we've had a few M flares, but none of it's really hitting the Earth, not causing any major interruption to the magnetic field of the Earth. There's been some solar storms, but nothing really massive to report about. The one things that have been sort of coming through only hit on a G3 sort of scale, very sort of minor, really, more than anything else. And as I said, I think that's what it's going to be like for the next sort of 2 or 3 months, coming into September, last part of September, mainly in October, November. That's when it's going to kick off again. And we'll see a lot more interference with aurora borealises and so forth. But this is a very important eruption that came off to the right in the direction of Mars. And this is where there's a real complex message coming from the overall energy, the prana energy, which comes into the sun. And if you understand what prana energy, there's 5 winds of prana, and that's blowing out in the direction of Mars. And it's a real complex discussion that's going on between the energies of the planets, which ultimately is going to be affecting the energies of us. So as we can see here, this eruption here comes out, and it's coming out from that X flare that's coming on off. There's the Earth there, and it's coming off pretty much at a right angle. There you got planet Mars, there you got Mercury, and there you got Venus. And we'll be going out into the position of the planets afterwards. But if you can just see here on that, that eruption that goes off, that X flare that went off, went completely in the direction away from the Earth. But as you can see slightly here to the right, it does affect the fields that are in front of the orbit of the Earth. It cuts out this arm a little bit as we go out of here. And what this does is it creates a sort of vacuum in the energies that are going around Earth. And that's when it comes into play there. It almost, the vacuum really, we can feel it much more at that point there once it starts playing out on the 7th, and then as it comes through totally, cuts out there, that's where we can feel that vacuum there, which is on the 8th. It's the same time as where it's hitting planet Mars. Now, there is a very particular reason for this. It's helping a lot with the energies and the information to come through, or the message to come through from the energies, in accordance to what we're doing more than anything else in life on this planet, but also as an individual. Okay, so let's just go in and have a look at the planets and what's going on there. So these are the earthquakes that we have today on the Earth on the 7th of August. there is a few things that we should really notice. First things first, there's a little grouping going on around the solar plexus. That's the main action that's been going on today. But the unusual ones, which have been up in Poland, in Europe, which was a 4-pointer in Grobosy, I think. I'm probably killing that name, I do apologise. And then there was one in Turkey, and then one in Greece as well, just afterwards. And this is rocking around the heart chakra. And like the solar plexus, which is down here, you don't really want earthquakes banging directly on the chakras, certainly the heart and the solar plexus, because it doesn't really help the situation. So what it's doing here is trying to get a bit more heart energy into the situation, stimulate the heart situation that's going on. And we can see that in the UK of what's been happening in the UK over the past few weeks. Maybe this is what's calling here. The earth is calling to the heart chakra to sort of say, things need to calm down, because there's a lot of heart energy that's going into what is going in the UK. And don't be fooled to think that the heart is just pure love and joy. The heart can also be incredibly vicious and decisive and divisive. That's where we get jealousy from. It also comes from the heart. And I think this is where the earth is sort of saying to the UK and everyone in the UK, and I'm originally from the UK, I'm not in there at the moment, but take a step back, see the situation for what it is, and let's approach this in another way. Yeah, I think there's understanding that there's problems on both sides, on every side. That's without shadow of doubt. That's within us individually. Individually, we have our own shortcomings, and we must know our own shortcomings. The moment we realise that, then it's going to make life a lot easier. The other interesting thing that's happening as well, very similar to the heart chakra, is what is going on the solar plexus. So there's a lot of earthquakes going on, 5.6 down in Fuji, around that sort of area, and that's the main grouping of the earthquakes at the moment. But there is that unusual one in the southwest of Australia, which is on Mount Butler apparently, which is at 3.9, which is pretty big, but you don't normally see them. I've seen them occasionally, but you don't normally see them on the mainland in Australia, and you probably don't want it on your solar plexus. The last thing you want is that amount of fire being fired out, really. But there's a lot of this going on between the heart and the solar plexus, where they are playing hand in hand with one another. And it's a time we started to getting this together. And this comes into play within accordance to the what's going on with the sun and the solar flares. So here we have nothing going on really in the root. There's nothing really going on in the crown either. There's only one. There's nothing really going on in the third eye of the throat chakra. There is a little bit going on in the sacrum. So there is a bit of degree of desire about this, but it's really cutting it off, as we can see within the Caribbean, the connection to the root. And this is a personal issue more than anything else in regards to the human being, that rather than the major lesson that's coming through nature and etc. So this is a human situation. This is going to play a lot upon the mental health of everybody across the globe, and it may be divisive at times, but that could be devices within yourself in order to see your shadow self. Once you see your shadow self, that's when you can really open up to something that is far greater and much more enjoyable, much more peaceful, much more evolving energy, and an ascension sort of type of energy. Once we can start seeing clearly both sides of the coin. If we can't see both sides of the coin, or if you're not ready to see your shadow side, you will have to see it at some point. You can't run away from it forever, and that's where people come into the problems with making things a little bit too positive all the time. So let's go on and see what's happening on that eruption from the sun, and seeing how that is also playing with the energies in the planets, and what that can mean as a message to us as individuals and collectively. So this is where we got the eruption going in the direction of Mars. A vacuum has been created in front of the Earth's orbit, and also Mercury and Venus as well, in a way. And what it's doing is it's pulling that energy through a little bit more. So we're actually getting a lot of information in retrospective, and this is why we're in Mercury retrograde, in retrospection of how we do things. And when we start doing things and they're not quite going for us, Mercury retrograde and Venus will be able to tell us that there is a much better way, a better way that's in much more in alignment with ourselves, and where we feel a lot more for the love more than anything else. And that is the main message coming in from the sun as it's plowing into Mercury on the 8th. So it's going in that direction. We now see that we're out of that alignment, where Mercury has come out of that alignment of Venus, Mercury and Mars. It's the information that's coming through from Mercury now that's really going to be applied in the energies from Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Going into the weekend, this is when we can start seeing, we should be able to start seeing a lot of understanding that comes through within the global situation about calming the situation down in regards to the warring energies of Mars, and bring us back to something that is a lot more sort of common sense. That situation has to be exposed at some point. This warring factor has to be exposed within us so we can decide not to accept it within our lives. And I think this is what the planets are trying to tell us, and the sun is trying to tell us with that eruption.
So here we are at the west end of the church. We're going to be dowsing here because this is where the female line is coming into play. So we're in the centre of town. I haven't got my usual dowsing rods. I've had to make do with a pair of hangers at the moment. It's kicking in there. Oh, it kicks in very quickly. But these are a little bit more difficult to use because they're light. They're a little bit more affected by the way in which we walk and stuff like that. My other ones are a lot heavier. So as we're gradually coming out, and this is the lady line here, the female energy. And then gradually there it is, it pretty much comes out there. And just to sort of show you, in the space there, and we'll be getting an energy update, earth messages and chakra sequencing from there. Because the line comes through this building and cuts that corner there. So we'll be sitting here in this lovely courtyard with a fountain in the middle. And that's the same thing as what we've got pretty much marking the other end of the line. And this is what female lines are all about. They're all about sources and wells and springs and that sort of thing. Wow, it's really jumping around though. And that's what the energies felt like. It felt like it's jumping about, very sort of buoyant, joyful, and it's opening up again there now. So very joyful and beautiful. And that could have something to do with the eruptions that came off from the sun, but more than anything else, I think it's to do with those earthquakes that we were talking about earlier on, that's rocking the heart and rocking the solar plexus. So this is going to be the fundamental energies that have been coming through at the moment, and we've seen that in the UK. We've seen what's been happening over there and also across other parts of Europe, and it was just it brings hot passions to the surface, and they can come out as being really good and sometimes come out as being pretty bad. It's just the way in which we interpretate the energy, really, more than anything else. And this is why we do this energy work, so we can actually go with a good flow rather than something that's rather destructive more than anything else. It's not that the destructive stuff doesn't have to come out. It does. It has to come to the surface, regardless of what we think. It's got to come to the surface in a way that so we can then understand and realise and have that sort of evident path to follow, so we don't need to follow the stuff that's basically destructive to us as individuals and us as collective. And I think this messages have been playing through the earth and through the planets is trying to back this up. It's a real massive message that we should be really listening to. So get out there, get dowsing, feel that energies and get the message for you. Let's go on and see what the message is from the earth and the chakra sequencing. So here we are, we're sat on the corner of this square here. We're right on the edge of the energy, it's got to be said, because it doesn't quite flow through that fountain, just a little bit, but nothing too hectic. But yeah, the vibrant energies that have been coming through have been quite amazing. So it's going to be interesting to see what the chakra sequencing is doing, and also what the message from the earth is. So let's just connect to that line. There we go. We've got that connection there, and it started straight off. Right, so we've got the entry point, goes to the crown, followed by the root. Very fluffy, very nice. It's reassuring, it's enveloping. It's a lovely type of energy. Then it comes up to the, it's very slow actually, bizarrely enough, coming up to the third eye and a little bit on the throat. Similar sort of thing. A little bit sort of fluffy, nice, solid, like cotton wool, but you know, but there is a case here for sort of just being careful of not taking too much upon our shoulders, as it were. I think that's important. And it goes down to the root, and that's where it's a lot more vibrant in that root chakra there. It's really sort of draining upon the circulation of the lower part of the legs and etc. It's really, it's too slow in a way. It's too slow, but it's very heavy. It's incredibly slow, and it comes up again. So then we're just starting to get the solar plexus. There's the sacrum playing into a bit. Sacrum's a little bit smarty. It's almost a little bit like sparks, as it were. Not the nicest of feelings, but nothing too bad, but nothing too nice either, with the solar plexus, which has got that cotton wool feel to it. And it goes past the central point, goes up to the crown chakra, and then the root, and it's coming down. And there's the heart as well, and the heart seems to be a little bit heavy on the energies. Maybe it's trying to slow down the sacrum and the heart as well. Maybe it's trying to slow down the energies that are going through everything that is around us. So we realize the common sense that we are so much better together than apart. And I think that's a big realization that we're coming to. And it's showing itself, obviously, within everything that is around us. It's very, very divisive sort of parts of human energy at the moment that need to be just knocked on its head. And you know, once we start really building together, it'd be absolutely brilliant. Let's just connect to that line and let's get a message from the earth. So we're connecting to the energy again. I love doing this in the center of towns because it's you've got to be able to disconnect yourself from the world that is going on around you. It's not always easy, but at the same time, we manage to work it out and get it sorted. So let me just connect to that energy. There we go. Go to the crossing point, which is just behind me in theory. It's down that sort of area there. And in the church. So let's go to that crossing point. Find that vortex. Go down into that vortex. There we go. Following it down into the earth. We're into the center of the earth. A lot more color. Last time it was white. This time here it's much more yellow, orangey at times, like an inner sun in a way, but it doesn't have all the sort of sunspots and the explosions. It's very much more sort of smoother in a way, but you can still see the ripples of energies as it's going through it, which create those vortex which connect to the outer shell of the earth and obviously through the lava and so forth. So Let's just lay down on the back of that, laying down on the center of the earth now. What is the message that needs to come through? You have two paths. One is a choice. The other is the evident path. In order to have destruction, you almost have to choose it. There is a certain degree of choosing creation as well, but creation is much more the evident path for everything that is in the working world, the material world, as it were. Just see the evident path which is within you. If you see that, then it's going to be so easy to just follow it. And when you follow it, and if we all as individuals follow it, eventually that's where we will get to a point of no return of blissful common sense, where we all sort of are on the same page. So, there you go. I'm just going to deconnect to the center of the earth. I'll wait for that vortex to come through. That'll take us back up through to the church. There it is. There we go in it. We follow it up through. We come out in the church. We come back down the line and then back into the body. Absolutely fantastic. I have enormous amount of, not hope, I have enormous amount of conviction that our future is definitely not what is being portrayed within the human race at the moment. I think that's really part of the old world that is just, it's going to have less and less effect upon people. Therefore, people are going to stop doing it. Stop this conflictual sort of way of doing things. It's going to be much more sort of constructive rather than destructive. But this is because we're also going through pole shift. And there is major changes in the environment. There's major changes in the solar system, throughout the solar system, and our position according to sort of stars, the galaxy, everything that is around us. And if we understand that, we can actually see the space that us as collective humans or individuals take within that whole concept of things. We're very minute. Yes, we can have a very big effect upon things. But I think the universal force can have a far greater effect upon us. If the universe wants us to finish, it will just blow the whistle and call the end of play. And we'll all be gone. And we'll all be moving on. Or coming back to another Earth, which will be created in the future, like Venus will become the planet Earth. So I've got a lot of optimism for the future, and conviction, that's the word, conviction. I have a lot of conviction that this world is going to be completely different in the next few years, and that's within the human world and within the geological world as well. So there you go. We've got all the tarot readings coming out tomorrow, Friday. Tomorrow is Earth signs, Friday's water signs, Saturday's fire signs, Sunday's air signs. At the moment, that will be changing when I get things together. But yes, in the meantime, I will see you soon. Thank you very much for all the support you give to this channel and through the YouTube system. It's absolutely lovely to see. And yes, I will see you soon. In the meantime, don't forget, life should be fun, so please do enjoy.